Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Galien Foundation Week of Biomedical Innovation webinar. We're celebrating the best of the best in life sciences and life sciences innovation that improves the human condition. I'm Ali Holland. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Medable, and I'm going to be serving as your chair and moderator of this 1 hour discussion, highlighting nominees in the Best Digital Health Solution category of the annual Pre-Galien USA Awards program. The webinar taking place this week serve as essential backgrounds for the awards, the Galien Foundation's largest event, which will be held on Thursday evening this week at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. It takes place in conjunction with our annual Galien USA Forum, which hosts speakers representing top scientific experts, biopharma business executives and entrepreneurs, and leaders in public health. All told, more than 900 representatives of our nominated countries, companies, and invited guests will be joining us in person on Thursday. Because of the mission of the Galien community is to improve the human condition, we have developed this webinar series to give our nominees in the different categories greater visibility in describing the highs and the lows of their journey to a breakthrough medical discovery. In the digital health solution category, which is our focus today, we have panelists representing companies that are working tirelessly in bringing their technologies forward for recognition by our Galien USA Awards Committee of Nobel laureates and other distinguished leaders in science and industry. So to kick us off, I'm going to ask each of our panelists here today to introduce themselves, their company and title, as well as a few words describing their association with the nominated product. So starting around the table here, let's start with Ricardo.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ricardo Lopez Barquilla. I'm the co-founder of All for Cure with Dr. Tony Blau. And our goal is to revolutionize how cancer is cured by bringing a platform that allows patients and clinicians and researchers to bring together all the learnings from everybody to inform the journey of each new patient. And I'm super excited to be here with all you guys.
Thank you, Ricardo. And Samantha, let's move to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Samantha Xie. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and Chief of Staff of MedLinker, the parent company of Future Doctor. We founded Future Doctor to solve what we call the impossible trinity of healthcare services. So the quality, efficiency, and accessibility. The challenges that no current traditional business model can balance at scale. So our solution, MedGPT, which used AI to scaling up the high quality services of top physicians and not to replace them. And by turning clinical expertise into scalable digital twin system, we help every patient access expert level of diagnosis and care, so regardless of geography and resources constraints. So our mission is very simple: to make expert medical services accessible to all and not a scarce privilege going forward. I'm happy to join this panel together with other panelists.
Thank you, Samantha. And Sean, let's introduce you to our audience here.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. My name is Sean Connolly. I'm Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Evanova. We are a wholly owned subsidiary and independent from AstraZeneca Group, and I lead our 500-person strong global product team. We launched our company, based on a lot of lessons learned on deploying our digital products for use in really difficult settings for patients that we understand the challenges of, those participating in oncology trials and rare disease trials and cardiovascular trials. And for us, we're really looking to accelerate getting medicines to patients in the global setting faster through better outcomes and understanding of science. So at Evanova, we bring together deep clinical expertise, deep understanding around evidence paradigms, and understanding and bringing kind of novel approaches around artificial intelligence. And at this point, we're used by more than 40,000 patients across 36 trial sites across the globe. So we're thrilled to be here in this company, and we're really excited about what we've accomplished to date and what we will continue to with our customers and partners.
Thank you, Sean. And Roman, maybe you can orientate us to your company.
Thank you, Eddie. Hello, everyone. My name is Roman Marmon. I'm the president of Aptar Digital Health at Aptar Pharma, and I'm honored today to be representing our team and the nominated solution, Migraine Buddy, which is the world leading app for migraine tracking and management, supporting millions of users worldwide. We'll come back to that later. But I like to acknowledge that Migraine Buddy was created by a team of migraine sufferers led by François Cadieux, and their vision has shaped the product for more than 10 years now, and I've had the privilege of supporting this journey for the past few years as we continue to scale the platform globally. It's very nice to join you all today for the webinar.
Thank you very much. And in the spirit of adding diverse accents to the mix here in our discussion, Ines, maybe you can introduce your organization.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. Ines Meldrum, I'm the CEO of AdhereTech, and as you can tell from the accent, I'm based in New Jersey, originally from Scotland. So I've been the CEO for AdhereTech for 2.5 years, and AdhereTech is focused on what I call the 800-pound gorilla in healthcare's room, and that is medication non-adherence. There's general acceptance that this is an issue. However, there's never been any solutions that have successfully impacted upon it, and that's ultimately why AdhereTech was founded. And I'm excited to share some of the impact we've had as we go through the webinar. And great to be on the panel with everybody.
Thank you, Ines. James, I'm going to come to you next.
Thank you guys so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am Jim Min. I'm the founder and CEO of Clearly. We are a digital health company. I am a cardiologist by training and practice. I spent about 16 years working at New York Presbyterian Hospital and Cornell Medical College in New York City. And there we performed a number of different clinical trials that informed the thesis of what we were doing here at Clearly. We addressed the world's #1 public health epidemic, which is cardiovascular disease, right? The cardiovascular disease accounts for about 50% more deaths than all cancers combined. So it definitely is an epidemic of monumental proportions. In 2020, there were twice as many cardiovascular deaths as deaths from COVID-19. That's how big this epidemic is. And so when we did the research, we identified that there were 3 major sort of points where somebody could fall through the cracks and then suffer future heart attacks or sudden coronary death. We felt that one of those sort of the legs of the stool was identification of people at the right time where disease could be prevented. The second was treatment. And then the third was really around implementation of good care into real world practice. So, our technology addresses identification and implementation. We created a digital care platform to really try to provide a comprehensive, standardized, and most importantly, personalized care management platform for every stakeholder in the care pathway. So it's a pleasure to be here today and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much. Rania, maybe you could orientate us to your company's submission here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Rania Habash. I'm an eye surgeon by training, and I am the Chief Medical Officer for Healthy AI. What if I told you that you could check your blood pressure, Dr. Min, straight from your face? And what if you could just cough into your phone and be able to screen for COVID? What if you could check your partner for a sexually transmitted infection just from a picture? That's healthy. We take health signals straight from the smartphone and deliver health insights based on that. So for Healthy AI, the AI stands for impact and access. And that's where we're the real differentiator. That's the real breakthrough technology here. Being able to get signals from any smartphone, from anyone, anywhere. So I am very excited to be here, and especially with this crowd. So thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Okay, Veda, I'm going to come to you next.
Okay, well, pleasure to be here. This is a joint submission from my colleague. I'm Veda Perkins. I'm the Vice President of Regulatory Intelligence and Policy at Boehringer Ingelheim, which is a multinational family-owned pharmaceutical company. My primary role with this submission is I'm the author and principal investigator of a collaboration agreement with FDA called Project PRISM. It's about leveraging quality cloud, high-tech quality submissions from cloud to accelerate registrations across the world. Right? So this is really to promote regulatory acceleration, rapid registration, and streamlined access to medicines, both complex and essential medicines, fast-tracking registration across multiple countries via a harmonized process, really looking at reducing that duplication reliance on shared regulatory data and including national authorities that have varying levels of expertise and resources. So not just the FDA and EMA who have those resources, but can you create an environment, a cloud environment where national authorities across the world can work together to speed up market entry? This allows for a neutral governance and transparency process to protect sovereignty, to build that trust and reduce that friction. But the ultimate goal is really to reduce approval timelines. How fast can we as an industry move upstream versus relying on health authorities and move faster in terms of how they assess and register products? And to be able to do that in a synchronized way, really when we do launch of high quality medicines, not just in the US or in Europe, but across geographies in one simultaneous way. And I'm very happy to be here, and maybe I believe Omar might be next.
There he
Great.
is.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Veda. It is a privilege and an honor to be here with this illustrious crowd. Unlike our colleagues here, we're not really focused on any particular disease state or indication. And as Veda indicated, a big part of what we're trying to do is democratize access to regulatory resources for global regulators and to have all of the stakeholders be able to look at a submission through the same lens. The whole point here is, as Veda indicated, to bring products to market faster and to do that in parallel across the globe instead of having 3 waves of product marketing and release and approval from a pharmaceutical company out into global markets. And the wave approach always hurts the countries that can least afford to be left out and left to the last delivery. So the ability to leverage the cloud appropriately and to deal with issues like data residency and all of the silos that happen just for a huge number of reasons, whether it's statutory or global policy. All of this has been demonstrated, thankfully, with Boehringer and FDA through Project Prism, and then with Boehringer and others, including major software providers, through the Project Prism, through Project Cryptics that Veda has been leading. So it is really an honor to be here and support something that could raise the tide for all patients around the world and particularly democratize access to regulatory resources for regulators across the globe.
Thank you so much, Omar. So, as everyone can hear here, this panel of amazing innovations and innovators is really changing the game, changing how we're going to be operating as a future state, really harnessing the power of digital technology and putting it into actual practice. It's very easy for us to theorize around utilization of digital, but putting it into practice, getting it into the field is a significant challenge. So I'm going to ask our panelists to really help us understand why each company chose to focus on the disease state and indication or the focus point of your digital technology, and in what ways does your solution represent a breakthrough in therapeutic or significant unmet medical need? And maybe I'll go back through the panel. So Omar, maybe you could kick us off on that question.
I'm sorry, was that for me?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned, this really is the first digital health innovation marking a secure, private, end-to-end cloud integration of regulatory workflows. And we were able to seamlessly link Boehringer Ingelheim's internal regulatory information systems and their publication systems with the FDA's Precision FDA via the DNA Nexus Trusted Regulatory Spaces cloud platform. And the whole point of this was really to enable submit once, review together approach, where we help the regulators and sponsors collaborate, and this is important, in real time, securely, transforming unstructured content into structured data, which is another important leg of the stool, and ultimately shortening the path from evidence to decisions so patients can access therapies sooner. Veda?
Yeah, no, just to echo that, Omar, the idea is that it's a dynamic platform. Many companies have, we have a large variety, a diverse portfolio. So this is something that doesn't really, it's not specific to a therapeutic area. What we're really trying to accomplish here is what we said in the intro about democratizing access to patients. There is no reason now, with the way the technology is available today, that you can't have many, many health authorities looking at one global dossier, taking into consideration their regional requirements to be able to collectively work together, interact with a sponsor, ask the question they need to answer, and then basically have that registration be a global one, right? So that's the driver, not just a place where you share information, but where you can learn, you can use the analytical tools, you can leverage AI and what they're trying to do for scientific reviews. And that's one of the reasons why for regulatory reliance programs such as or the Access Consortium, that they're leveraging these technologies in pilot format to see how they can leverage this to do the things that they do best. And that's to collaborate and harmonize and really get to the point where we can get to one global submission, one global review, one global registration, and provide access to medicines and avoid this wave approach, as Omar indicated.
Cool, thank you. And Rania, from your perspective, that ability to read from visuals, an insight. Maybe you could highlight how your solution's representing that therapeutic breakthrough.
Yeah, I mean, as an ophthalmologist, the eyes are really the window to the soul, but it turns out the smartphone is really the window to the rest of the human body. So it's actually the biggest health platform in the world when you think about it. And so being able to use those signals, any signals, the camera, the microphone, the gyroscope, the accelerometer, all of this information straight from everyone's smartphone, that's what truly democratizes medicine, and that's what really excites me as a physician. So there's more than that, though. When I mentioned before, what if I told you could just check your blood pressure through your face or through PPG, or your cough just from coughing into your phone? But now what if that phone was also in a farmhouse in rural West Virginia where I grew up, or a New York subway, or in a refugee camp all the way across the world? I mean, that is really how you improve the human condition. That's what Healthy is and is all about. And I think that's the real breakthrough, is being able to garner these insights straight from everyone's pocket. But beyond that, there is the rest of the magic, or even more magic. It sits kind of in the back end, and very similar to what Omar and Veda were talking about. The importance of this is to be able to integrate those signals that are coming from the smartphone with other things. And that means wearable devices from a patient, or their lab results, their genetic information, even with public health metrics, things like the air quality index or wastewater trends, and then integrating and aggregating all of that data to make really personalized, contextualized insights back to a patient. That's the real strength of this. And honestly, if I might add, it feels like all of us on this call really should be part of one huge, major, awesome platform. So that's really where Healthy comes in with their breakthrough.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it really feels as though we should be working together as an ecosystem, doesn't it? And James, maybe you could help us.
Justice League of medicine.
Yeah, exactly. It's one human system and one ecosystem of digital. So, James, maybe you could help us with, why did you choose to focus in the area that you did, and what was the unmet need that you were looking for from your organization's perspective? Jim?
Sorry about that. Yeah, my interest is really in coronary heart disease, the cause of heart attacks and sudden coronary death. And as I alluded to before, I think that there's three major legs to the stool of proper delivery and effective delivery. It's the identification of the people who are at risk. It's the effective treatment that exists in lifestyle and pharmaceuticals, and then it's the implementation of that care. And if I look back at the last 70 years that we've been practicing in cardiology, I think we've been doing it all wrong. We're a very symptom-driven approach to care, right? So very reactive, where we, essentially, if you're asymptomatic, we look at risk factors of disease like cholesterol and blood pressure that correlate very unreliably to disease. Then we tell patients to go home and come back if they've got shortness of breath or chest pain, at which point we typically put them on a treadmill and do a stress test. And if that looks abnormal, we take them for an invasive angiogram. The statistics show and the clinical trials show that that approach just simply doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because none of those things are actually disease. They're surrogate markers of disease rather than the disease itself. We looked at around 5 million heart attacks across the country and asked just a very simple question. In a very symptom-driven field, what percentage of the patients who had suffered heart attacks had any symptoms before their event? Turns out that more than half of the people never had a symptom before their event. If you look at those asymptomatic people, about 30% of them don't have any risk factors of disease. They don't see doctors, and then they don't get treated. So what we realized was that if we don't try to identify these people earlier, we will never solve this problem. And then the next thing we looked at was the treatment. If you look at all of the available treatments that are just medicines that are available and FDA approved today, and if you do sort of an academic exercise and assume that they're all additive in the right person, you can get to a relative risk reduction of over 90%. That means the tools that we have today can effectively eradicate heart attacks. We just aren't identifying the right people, and we're certainly not implementing care well. And so when you look at the implementation of care, the one thing that we thought we could do was personalize the approach to educating patients and providing them with health literacy through direct visualization of disease. There was a large Kaiser Permanente study that demonstrated that the number one factor that drove patient adherence to medical therapy was the patient's perception that the condition that they were treating was serious. They simply don't think that cholesterol or blood pressure is serious, but when they see their actual disease on imaging, which is what we do, then you can see the seriousness of the condition, and you see that the adherence rates go up substantially. So we really wanted to tackle that three-legged stool, but mostly in the identification and implementation arenas.
Thank you. You know, that ability to make that personal connect is really important, isn't it, to behavioral management and subsequent disease management. So super impressive. Ines, I'm going to come to you and really understand why you were, focusing your organization's solution into this specific arena, and what unmet medical need are you really looking to address?
Great, thanks. And this is actually perfect because, as James said, that there's a behavioral aspect to this. And I think that the reason that medication adherence remains such an issue is because it's a behavioral issue and not a medical issue. So trying to influence patient behaviors is very tough. The consequences of the current medication non-adherence epidemic, every year in the US, 125,000 patients die because they don't adhere to medicines they've been prescribed. In the clinical trial setting, and I think a lot of people don't know this, is that within the clinical trial setting, a lot of really good drugs that are safe, efficacious, would have benefited patients in need, never come to market because the patients are not able to follow the clinical trial protocol. There was a recent meta-analysis published in 2023, 17,000 patients across 28 different disease states. 50% of patients deviated significantly from the clinical trial protocol. After 3 months in a study, 20% weren't even taking the medication. The reason that we don't hear much about this is because the solutions that are used and have been used for quite a while now, really not leveraging latest tech, they mask the issue. So the common solutions are pill counts, where a patient comes back in and the study site will count pills. Patients don't want to be scolded, so they dump the pills. We know that these are only 60% accurate. E-diaries, in theory, patients should fill it out every day. In reality, what happens, patients come into the clinical trial site and they complete it from memory. That leaves at only 27% accuracy. So as a result, we've got all these great drugs, all of this investment that's gone in that could have benefited patients, all for a simple solution. The reason that AdhereTech was founded was to bring a level of precision and accuracy to this that hasn't existed before. There's two key differences why we work versus anything else. We work cellularly. So there's no apps. Apologies, Rania. There's no apps. It's cellular, AT&T wireless, and it's a smart pill bottle. Patients are used to taking pills from a pill bottle. The second reason that we work is it's easy for patients. It's seamless. As I say, they're used to taking pills from a pill bottle. We just happen to have a super smart one that helps them with reminders, etc., connects into the healthcare ecosystem, but we're able to keep them on track and really make a huge difference both in the clinical trial setting and in the real world.
Thank you so much. And Sean, I'm sure that's resonating with you from that kind of how do we optimize trial design and signal detection and that behavioral compliance?
Yeah, for sure. And, for us, the big problems that we're really focused on are the fact that the current health economics don't make sense globally, right? It's becoming more expensive, not less, to develop a drug. It's taking longer, not less time. We just had a great conversation around all the technology that we have out there, but we all have a responsibility to industry and to the global population of getting value out of that technology. And that's been one of the big drivers for us around more intelligent study design, thinking carefully around why we are actually capturing certain data and what's really meaningful as we go through an approval cycle. And so those macro trends are what led us, when we're starting to focus on what our product does and what problems we're solving for, it really starts and ends with the patient. That's where we're capturing the data, and that's what starts to tell us what's happening. We did a lot of direct research. So a team of cultural anthropologists, and this was a really exciting global effort to understand across multiple disease areas, therapeutic areas, the actual trial sites, what is actually happening during the course of a trial. So when we look at those drivers of what is making clinical trials more expensive and running longer, it's the traditional, can we find the patients, right? It's single digit percentages of patients that actually participate. It's dropout rates. Sometimes it's greater than 40% of dropout rates of those patients. And the unfortunate part is many times it's not that the patients are choosing to drop out, they're actually too sick to continue to participate in the trial. So we learned a few things in that research. I think that the first is many of these patients, they're looking for hope and they're looking for empathy in how you engage with them to actually participate. And they're looking for any way to address the fact that trials can be very lonely. And you have to look at that from a different angle. So in oncology settings, especially in the later phase and late stage oncology trials, the question is open of, is the drug actually worse than the disease itself because of what it means for the patient's quality of life? So in our solution, we have a lot of means. Rania is talking about some of the more exciting parts of using mobile devices and imaging and AI to capture vital signs and those elements, which are really compelling, and the more traditional connected devices, and also just asking patients what is happening in your daily life. And we bring all that data together to give a really great 360-degree view around that patient. We know we have a better experience, when we actually go and we work with these patients in our focus groups, they are more engaged in those trials, and we generally see greater than 90% compliance around the data that we're capturing in those critical points for the trial. The other area that we learned in our research was in asthma COPD patients. So in respiratory, some of these folks, they have difficulty just getting up a flight of stairs in their own home and carrying out their regular daily life. Why would they want to go into a trial setting and have to get to a trial site? And so we have a fully remote, fully decentralized approach to find those patients, enroll those patients, get home supply to them of that investigational product, and then use connected devices to actually measure their spirometry, for example. And then we use composite endpoints that actually reduce the number of patients that have to participate in the trial. So those are a couple of examples of, we do work across multiple therapeutic areas, but the way that we prioritize and why really starts with those macro drivers. We want really high quality evidence that comes at a lower overall cost and delivers to an accelerated timeline. And then we go deep into the therapeutic area, and in some cases the indication, to really drive a strategy that gets us there. And we have a lot of great outcomes that we've published that speak directly to those outcomes in those spaces.
Super. And we're going to come to some of those outcomes in our next set of questions here. So to round these ones out, Roman, maybe you could help us understand why you focused into this particular area for your digital technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like we would need much more than an hour to
I think so.
continue
We could
this
take the day.
conversation. It's fascinating. So, and by the way, Sean mentioned all the challenges and what technology can do to accelerate clinical trials. And we have 4 million patients have trusted a migraine buddy to manage their disease with an app. So we're true believers of that, just as you, Rania, but we also offer them to connect with clinical trials opportunity through the platform. And that's a great opportunity for patients and for sponsors to advance research. So why did we look at migraine? I mentioned migraine sufferers were part of the story and have been part of the story for the entire journey. I think we all know about migraine. It's actually more than 1 billion patients suffering from migraine worldwide. But 1 billion patients, it's poorly understood and often undertreated. You also, I'm sure you know, it's disproportionately affecting some population. So research tells, for instance, that women are 3 times more likely to experience migraine than men. And the impact of migraine is not just physical; it's emotional, it's social, it's economic. So that's a significant unmet need that we have decided to address. And over the years, Migraine Buddy, which started as a simple tracking tool, became a real companion for patients, and it helps people understand their triggers, understand the patterns of attacks, understand how they respond to treatment. And that's really the breakthrough behind Migraine Buddy. It's its ability to turn episodic data, subjective experiences, into structured data, insights that can really advance the understanding of the disease and help bridge the gap between patients and their care team. And really, I want to come back with the misconception that it is just migraine. I'm sure if you have the opportunity to speak with someone whose life is really truly affected by the disease, or maybe you are a migraine sufferer yourself, in which case I invite you to download Migraine Buddy. It's free. So we're happy to provide you with the support of Migraine Buddy. But so this misconception, it really overlooks how migraine can deeply impact someone's ability to work, to maintain social relationships, to participate in everyday life. And that's really what Migraine Buddy is about, is really to bring visibility into the disease and these symptoms and this impact, and help address this impact and support patients and those who are living with migraine with real technology. And again, I would be very happy to discuss with some of you how we can bring even more innovations to Migraine Buddy through your technologies into the platform. That would be great.
Super, thank you. I think another call for ecosystem engagement and partnership here, isn't it? So, Samantha, I'm going to come to you next, and obviously looking at that therapeutic breakthrough through focus that you and your organization have in this category.
Sure. I think to simplify what we're doing, we're not really trying to break through any particular therapeutic areas. I think Oma mentioned about democratize the regulatory system. What we're trying to do is actually democratize the healthcare services system. I think what we know is that there are a lot of patients in US and in China or elsewhere in the world being misdiagnosed or paying expensive healthcare bills, or they just need to wait for a long line to see the right doctor they should meet. So we believe that generative AI actually can play a very important role into this. Yet I think you guys using ChatGPT in the US a lot more than I do in China, but most of the large language models they're impressive at conversation, but they don't really think. They're trying to predict what's the next word they should say based on probability, but they're not thinking. So in the high stake fields like healthcare or even in the law system, linguistic fluency without the cognitive accuracy is actually very dangerous. So we discovered that in the conversational large language models, their knowledge is locked into the parameters. They can't explain the intermediate reasoning. They optimize for sounding good rather than being logically right. and the lack of engineering loop for safety and stability. So we built MedGPT from a language model into a cognitive medical system. We built based on a two dual layer system where the fast system is for dialogue and the slow system for evidence-based reasoning. And we have the ACC layer, which is for real-time conflict detection and safety supervision. In essence, we're trying to build a human brain itself. So like a doctor, just to mimic how they actually think in a very real clinical situation. The outcome of that is that we now can diagnose around 35,000 disease and we provide treatment based on that. So we're actually using AI to amplify or scaling up all the best technicians, at least in China, to make them available and accessible anywhere, anytime for any patients. So that's what we do.
Great, thank you so much. And Ricardo, same question to you about, why did you choose this focus for your technology?
Yeah, it's kind of, you think multiple myeloma is not like, Dr. Min says everybody has heart problems and everybody has migraines. Reminds us, not a lot of people have multiple myeloma, but I'm not a doctor. I'm an engineer, and for me, it was incredible that they can tell you that you guys, doctors, can tell somebody, look, you have cancer, and we know what it is. We know why it happens. We cannot fix it. That's kind of for me such an incredible thing. And then when I was talking with oncologists about it, with Dr. Blau, my co-founder, he said, well, the problem is even worse than that. It's like, how can it be worse? It's like, and multiple myeloma represents the tip of the spear of that problem in oncology. And the thing is that it's not the problem that there are no cures. So over the last 20 years, they have been kind of an explosive progress, and there is the development of new and effective treatments. But delivering those optimally requires a specialized knowledge. And that is, and it's impossible for a general oncologist to be up to date on over 200 types of cancers. And so it's not even that the cure doesn't exist, it's that the cure exists, but there is a chance that your doctor will not know about it. And it's not even in rural Wisconsin or in a refugee camp. It will happen to you even if you are in a big city, because it's very difficult. Things are moving very fast. And we have evaluated super deeply more than 1,000 patients with multiple myeloma. We have collected their medical records. We have used AI, and we've used a lot of different techniques to get to a perfect picture view of their treatment, of their journey, of their kind of how they have gone through the course of their condition. And we have seen that suboptimal treatment is pervasive in those people. And these are not kind of people from random places or from, no. These are people that know enough about cancer or about multiple myeloma, and that they are connected enough to be able to access our website and to know that we exist. And the thing is that suboptimal treatment costs them years of potential life because of that suboptimal application of the treatment. So what we do? What we do, all for cure, we have a kind of a learning ecosystem and a set of clinical pathways in which we figure out how to help patients, how to suggest next treatments, and to show them what is the treatment, what is the outcome for similar patients to them, patients that share a lot of commonality with them. And for that, we basically use all the knowledge across all the patients to influence, to inform what should be the next treatment for each patient, and each patient treatment to inform what happens with multiple myeloma. And that requires a lot of investment in technical knowledge, a lot of kind of going to, as Samantha was saying, going into AI and going to the kind of the limit of what AI provides now, but also it requires a lot of medical knowledge and being informed of what is the things that are happening. And multiple myeloma is the first one, and we started with the most difficult one with the expectation of figuring out that one and then expanding to a lot of other cancers.
Thank you. I think what we've heard here is that the future of healthcare has so much opportunity, and we've known for a while that harnessing digital is going to help us get to transformational change. But we also know that that's difficult. We're in a highly regulated, very personal, very emotive environment, as well as a highly scientific environment. And so actually being able to convert a great solution into practice is really key. And that's why you all are such phenomenal panelists here today, because you've actually done that. You've made that change into making an impact for clinicians and patients in the field. And so I'd love to do a quick fire round across the team, kind of 2 minutes on, can you give us an example and cite a clinical outcome that your solution has made to really emphasize for everyone how real these are and the practical application that's available today for those. So I'll start with Omar on this one.
Let me defer to my colleague Veda for an intro. I'll follow up from him. He's really the inspiration behind the Cryptics project and Project Prism.
Well, so what we've been able to prove in this facilitated parallel and simultaneous review, right? To really demise expertise in a collaborative environment around the world. And that's really where I think the true humanitarian value is. So in one of the examples that we used, we were able to take a real dossier, submit it in one place to a cloud for multiple health authorities to be able to access it, analyze it, review it, have those dialogues between ourselves, the industry, right? So as a sponsor and with the health authorities, and then be able to come to some making. Just putting the dossier together alone, we anticipated we probably saved 4 or 5 days. So if you think about taking that technology way upstream, could you save months, potentially even years, if you could come up with an interoperable environment that really shapes how therapies get to patients? I guess the easiest for me to put it is kind of borrowing from what Rania said. I'm hearing about all these really innovative and transformative solutions and technologies from our colleagues here. And one of the things is you're going to want to have to get to that process to where it's approved. How could we take something like what Ryan has developed, what Ricardo's talking about, if it's a device or software as a medical device, or what Sean mentioned through that approval process, and saying, here's this new technology, rather than me having to go to the US first and spend a lot of money because it's expensive and there are a lot of redundancies. What about an environment where you had every global health authority who was interested to be there, and you had to do that once? So when you knew once you had that approved, that your app or your solution was available worldwide, and you didn't have to go through the 20th century regulatory review process to get access to patients globally. That's what we've been able to demonstrate in a very small, I would say, sample size of 5 days, and we think that we could amplify that, and this could be a force multiplier to get things done months, even with potentially years sooner around the world.
Super, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely exciting about where we're going forward. Rania, from that, what's a real tangible example that you have from the impact to clinicians and patients?
Well, first of all, Veda, that would be a dream. And that'll probably get us to the next question about how we, some of the complications or the downsides of trying to bring technology to market. But going back to the clinical outcomes, as a patient or as a physician for my patients, if I give them a medication, I'm only seeing them like every 4 to 6 months, something like that. I'm only getting a small snapshot of what that medication or what that outcome is going to be. I would much rather have data that's coming in, patients testing like every day, every couple of days or whatnot, and then develop a real trend analysis so I can make very informed decisions about my patients. For me, that's a real, issue, and that's where I think that we've shown a lot of impact. And then just to kind of piggyback on something that Dr. Min was saying before about cardiovascular disease, he's right. That is one of the biggest, problems that we face in the world right now. Imagine there was a Lancet study actually where I'm sure he knows about this one, but the Lancet study also shows that a decrease of 10 millimeters of mercury, which is points of systolic blood pressure that you can give a patient. So if I put a patient on a hypertension medication and they were able to decrease their blood pressure from like 130/80 to 120/80 instead, that decreases the risk of major cardiovascular events by like 20%. I mean, that's huge, right? It decreases strokes by 27%. It decreases heart failure by, I think it was 25%. And then it decreases all-cause mortality. That is anything a patient can die from by about 13%. And that's just something simple like decreasing the blood pressure by 10 points, right? So all of this early screening and detection, and then being able to follow a patient longitudinally, having them adhere to the treatments that we give them. That's what I like to see as a physician, and that's where I think Healthy makes a very big difference. Something else I wanted to bring up, also piggybacking on some of the things that the others had said. Adherence really is an issue, whether you're in the clinic or whether you're in a clinical trial. And one of the other really cool things behind the curtain that Healthy offers is a DHAP, which is a digital health asset passport, and a rewards program. So I feel like that's the missing link for patients. If I could get my patients, especially in the more disadvantaged groups, to test more often, to share their data so that everybody could have better insights from that diverse pool of data, it would make all the algorithms much stronger and give them better personalized health insights as well. So I'm really excited about that third component of our platform, and that's where I feel like we have a great impact as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think being able to see that longitudinal data collectively and have really enhanced access to that data to be able to make much more predictions and see those trends earlier is going to be really key. James, you probably would like to comment on that following on from a cardiovascular perspective, I'm sure.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I mean, all of our products were built on about 20 years of clinical trials. So we believe in science. We believe that we should continue to prove that there are merits to actually using our products. So we have invested quite heavily in that. We have more than 100,000 patient years of outcomes data at this point. We've got over 50 clinical trials going. We invested heavily into a large observational cohort registry called Confirm, which has enrolled over 10,000 patients with 5-year outcomes, but more specifically out of East Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Eastern and Western Europe, North and South America. We want to make sure that the disease factors that we were measuring did apply to all ethnic subgroups and genders, and have committed we're performing right now 2 large randomized controlled trials too as well. The way that we have looked at research is to try to stepwise go through it methodically. So when we first got the products FDA cleared, we said, well, we have to prove that they're accurate, right? Diagnostic performance. And we say that we're measuring this thing, that it's got to actually be that thing. The second, and we tested against every gold standard and went head to head with the available tests in the non-invasive marketplace, and demonstrated high performance. The second step that we said, well, it has to be prognostic, right? If I tell you that you have an abnormal finding, but it doesn't affect your life in the future, then why am I measuring it? So, and it has to be independently and incrementally prognostic above and beyond the tools that we have available to us today. So that was, so we invested in 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10-year outcomes trials to show that that was actually the case. And then the third step that we took was clinical utility. Like, does it actually influence patient management, right? So, and what we've shown is that about 65% of the time, the management actually changes once people see the output of our analysis. The fourth thing was around literacy, right? Because we realized that it's not only that the patient doesn't understand things, it's that the whole care team is pretty uncoordinated. And who is that care team? That's the radiologist, it's the cardiologist, it's the prevention doctor, it's the interventional cardiologist, it's the primary care physician, it's the advanced practice provider, and it's also the patient. So we deliver tools to each one of those stakeholders in ways that they can understand and find to be clinically actionable. So that was, and then the most important thing was the improvement in patient health outcomes. So we did 2 large studies, about 3,000 patients each, followed for 7 years, really trying to see whether or not our tools could help guide interventional therapy as well as medical therapy in a manner that would improve patient health outcomes and patient event-free survival. So those are sort of the ways that we sort of took to try to prove out our technology. And then we wanted to also focus on a separate population of people that I think most people have forgotten, which is the residual risk population, right? So as Rania described, like if we put somebody on a medicine and we drop the relative risk by 20%, historically we've congratulated ourselves for that. But if you think about it, like if I give you somebody and I put them on a medicine, I'm just going to make something up, their cholesterol, and I get a 20% reduction in major adverse cardiovascular events, that means 80% of the people I've lowered cholesterol in, and they're not benefiting from that drug. And to me, that's called failure, right? And that's because, and we call those people residual risk people. And so our technology allows you to track disease over time, actual heart disease over time, to see whether or not you're one of the 1 out of 5 who's benefiting from a therapy versus the 4 out of 5 who's not. And so trying to track disease over time, I think, is another effort that our research actually is emphasizing as well.
Thank you. And in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of just refocus on a couple of minutes per example of just the impact in practice. So Ines, we've just talked about compliance being really important, and maybe you can give us an example of what the impact and the patient and clinician response has been to your product.
Absolutely, and I'm going to reference my fellow engineer Ricardo, and we conducted a study in multiple myeloma where one group of patients had our bottle and all the behavioral interventions. The other group had the bottle but without any of the interventions. The group with the bottle, 100% compliance, the other group, 87%. The interesting thing is all patients self-reported 100% compliance, which goes back to my previous point about we're masking the issue. Just very quickly, in the real world, cross disease states, cross patient populations, we consistently are able to impact retention, uplifting at 50% in the first year. The main reason, it's seamless for patients to use. So we've taken tech and we've made it easy for patients to use, which is what everybody else on this webinar, and is probably a very common theme, I think, across the board.
Thank you.
I just have to jump in and say that, Ines, I have got to get your product for my 90-year-old father-in-law. Absolutely.
Bring me afterwards.
I will.
Very true. Romain, maybe you'd like to address this in terms of impact to clinicians and patients.
Yeah, I try to be brief, but I need a shout out to Ricardo and Ines. I lost one of my parents to multiple myeloma, and I was younger but old enough to try to help them navigate treatment options, and that was not easy. So thanks for what you're doing. So going back to migraine, quickly, I mean, the numbers, I mentioned 4 million users, 120 countries. We believe that 90% of app-based migraine tracking happens in Migraine Buddy today. That speaks to the breadth and the footprint and impact of the solution. 800 million data points. I can speak about and point you to the publications that we enabled with the solution in understanding the impact of new treatment like anti-CGRPs or digital phenotyping in migraine, etc. But in the interest of time, I want to focus on one thing. I've worked in digital health for 25 years, and I've seen a lot of promising products just fail to scale. So we are super proud that we have that many patients that see enough benefit in the solution and their care team as well, because 1/3 of the patients are recommended the tool by their care team. So we're super proud. You look at the App Store, you go there, you'll see across 100,000 reviews, the rating is 4.9 out of 5. And that speaks to the impact every day for migraine sufferers.
Thank you. Yeah, putting this in the hands of our population, our intended targets, and then seeing their response is so critical. Sean, you're seeing that from the clinical trials perspective and the clinicians who participate, I'm sure.
Yeah, we see really great feedback from those, and specifically answering your question, Ali, in terms of the outcomes, we're really proud about actually measuring completed trials. So our product is not new. We're 16 major releases into our trial solution, and we're really proud to say that we've measured and we've posted through a Nature article that we published with one of our largest customers 40% fewer in-person patient visits. That drives a measured 60% improvement in the patient experience. You're asking the patients in comparison, and you're getting much better outcomes from them. I think one of the most exciting parts is we've measured a 6-month trial acceleration. So that's half a year, and that isn't a registrational trial. That means that 6 months actually led to patients getting that drug faster on the market. You pair a lot of those things together. We measure around 32% cost reduction. So do the math, an average, $100 million trial, that's $32 million of real savings from using these technologies. And I think the other really important element, and it ties together, is when you're being creative around what you measure, how you measure, and the endpoints that are relevant from an FDA perspective, we can drive to 50% fewer patients actually in the trial itself. So the one that we haven't measured the full outcome, but we have really great data, is actually forward-looking. We haven't talked at all about sustainability and the fact that there's a lot of waste and carbon impact of clinical trials. So when you're actually looking at a lot of the benefits of using our technology, we believe that the direct use of our trial solution will drive 20% reduction in carbon emissions when it's used in that trial setting. So that one's not in the article, but that's a more forward-looking. If you bring all these things together, we can actually have a big sustainability impact as well.
It's an important perspective, isn't it, that we can't give on the one hand and take away on the other by an unintended impact. So thank you. Samantha, I'm going to invite you to comment on the patient and clinician response impact.
Sure. So in China, some of the country's most renowned specialists, clinicians are working with us on exclusive basis. So they're helping us to, further continuously developing MatGPT. They're also creating their own AI digital twins so they can allow them to serve thousands of patients simultaneously, which is, beyond the limitation of any traditional consultation or hospital visits. On the patient side, last month, we see exceptional growth after we launched our product several months. Last month, we saw over 300,000 consultation just in that single month. That in China context, that's equivalent to the volume of some of the top tier hospitals. And that's not just random consultation where you're asking random questions to a chatbot. Those consultations mostly come with doctor signed prescription. So it's a clinical, practical, medical prescription that we're giving to all the patients that come to the platform. And the doctors or the physicians can sign on those prescriptions because they believe in the MatGPT. They've been using our technology as their co-pilot, and they've been driving that flight with their co-pilot for several months before it can be made available for patients. So yeah, we're very excited of seeing the continuous growth.
Amazing, thank you. And Ricardo, you've heard all the way through here, most of our panelists wish access to your clinical pathway predictions. So maybe you'd like to just address the final comment here.
Yeah, so when Dr. Min was talking about literacy and coordination, you have your doctor, your oncologist, and your myeloma expert. And when you go on a journey and you want to be coordinated, you need a map. So we have built more than 1,000 multiple myeloma maps that tell you basically what is your path, what is your kind of suggestions of what be your next treatment, and also what is the outcome of that treatment of similar patients. And at the end, what we have seen is that when you look at patients that have had treatments that were kind of suggested by myeloma, but all for cure, they have been in that treatment, in that line of treatment longer than patients who have had treatments that were not suggested by all for cure. And you guys know that when you move from one treatment to another, it's a lot more expensive. There is a lot of pain also from going from one treatment to that. So we are very proud to see that we are making an impact on that, and that these clinical paths and these kind of maps are helping people stay healthier much longer, which with multiple myeloma, we are getting to a point in which you can live with multiple myeloma for 25 years, 30 years, if you kind of go through the right things, to the right places, to the right treatments. And oral medication are the most difficult to figure out. We have super detailed maps of what people are doing, and we spend so much money on AI to figure out the oral medications, and we still depend on what people write and what people say. So I'm super excited to basically combine that bottle that basically will help me save a lot of money and be even more accurate.
Thank you so much. And what an inspirational comment to finish us on. So I'd really love to thank all of the company representatives here, congratulate them on being panelists, being finalists in the Galien Foundation Awards, and remind everyone that this webcast is viewable on the Galien Foundation's homepage. Hopefully everyone has found this an engaging discussion. I know the follow-ups and the additional conversations I want to have after this have really been fired up, and I hope that's true for everyone else. I think it's really key that it's this ecosystem of partnership that is going to change the world, leveraging digital health in practice. So on behalf of myself and our panelists, I really look forward to seeing you all on Thursday and wish the greatest of success to all of our panelists here as they progress their digital health technologies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.